Okay, my name's Rob, and I'm glad you're here. This is a series that I'm doing on dealing with grief and things you may experience, things that your friends or people you love may experience, and ways for us to deal with those things and to help the people that are dealing with that kind of thing as well. I hadn't planned on doing this video right now. I planned on doing this video, this very subject, but I hadn't planned on doing it right now. I'm working out in my shop right now, and this isn't just a hobby shop, it is a workshop. This is where I make my living out of. And it is not necessarily real neat and maybe not the best environment for doing a video like this. But sometimes you know when the time is right, and the time was right. I've been putting this one off for a while because I knew it might be a hard one for me to do. They're all kind of hard for me to do, but I had a feeling this one might be. But what happened is I was looking for some parts I needed for a job, looking in some far back corners, because it's one of those parts you know you have in your shop somewhere, but you just don't know where it is. Or maybe the rest of y'all are organized enough you don't run into that. I run into that a lot though. But way back over in the back corner over there, behind some boxes of other parts and some things that I wasn't looking for that I had to move to get to the place where I was looking, I came across a bag that just looked like a bag of trash that had fallen back there. But when I picked it up, I could see it had some envelopes and things like that in it, and I thought, I wonder what that is. And so just a few minutes ago, I opened it up to check it out, and what happened was the exact subject of this video, which is those unexpected things that happen sometimes that hit you pretty hard. You know, there's some things you expect to happen that are going to hit you. You know, I've got a couple of pictures of my girls right there. For those of you that don't know, if this is the first video you've seen, a little over 2 years ago, I lost my two oldest girls in a traffic accident, which wasn't their fault. A woman that didn't know which way to drive on a divided 4-lane highway ran head on into them, killed one of them outright. The other one died an hour or so later in the hospital. My third daughter, that I fortunately still have, suffered lots of injuries, something like 9 broken bones and a seatbelt rash that was so crazy you could see the stitching in it, in the rash that was left behind, and no telling what all injuries internally that, you know, will probably continue to surface for years. But those kind of things, when I see pictures like that, when I come across other pictures that we have, you know that sometimes they're going to get to you. And we'll talk about that in a different video. But today we're going to talk about the ones that surprise you, that catch you off guard. And that's kind of what happened today. I opened up this bag, and it turns out to be a bag of, I think it's got dirt and stuff like that in it, but I kind of went through it anyway. This was from back when my oldest daughter, Ella, was just over a year old. She was about a year and a half old, and we had relocated our family here to West Texas where we were, and I was still living up in the mountains of Colorado, and was finishing up a job on a log house that I was working on up in Leadville, Colorado. And so my wife, back when she used to like me and think I was pretty great, would send me cards all the time, just little cards and notes to encourage me and, you know, tell me that she missed me and just things like that. I mean, she sent tons of stuff, and it was great. And of course, like a lot of husbands, I probably got to where, you know, they didn't all mean as much individually as they should have, but they were special nonetheless, and I saved them. I've always saved these kind of things, and I really didn't know this sack was back there. I really didn't know about it, but you can see she'd cut out hearts out of neat stuff and write little notes on the backs of them and send me those, or she'd send me cards. Here, went through my first, well, it wouldn't have been my first Father's Day, but I guess it would have been my second Father's Day. Sent me a little book that she mailed up to me, wrote an inscription in the front. Nice things like that. But during that time, she was doing other things. Here's my daughter. My wife made some bookmarks, and that's my daughter right there, her baby footprint and all. That hit me pretty hard. Fortunately, I think I've gotten past it. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to do this without breaking down and having to shut the camera off. But one of the other things she sent was this. This is, oh good, I dropped it. I'm trying to handle it gingerly and I dropped it. These are sonogram pictures when my wife was pregnant with our second daughter, Aranza. And yeah, I hadn't expected to find this. And it hit me pretty hard. It hit me real hard, in fact. If this kind of thing has happened to you, if you've lost somebody, you should know that you're going to come across stuff like that sometimes. Things, boy, and out here in my shop is just one of the worst places because I've got little mementos, little things of my girls all over the place, just stashed here and there that from times when they were playing out here or out here helping me work. And sometimes they did help me work. My daughters were tremendous good helpers and workers. But every now and then you come across something like that and it flat knocks the wind out of you. It hits you, it hits you hard. Something I found just the other day that I had forgotten about a long time ago. When the girls were little, we had gone to an old lake, Canyon Lake, that's a little over an hour away from here. And they had done an archaeological dig, a sure enough archaeological dig with a lady that does that kind of thing. And they took trowels and from behind nowhere, I found this trowel that Ella was using for digging. Now it's a no big deal thing, right? It's just just a little trowel that's used for digging or laying mortar or whatever else. But it had her name on it and it reminded me of a bunch of things, and so that caught me off guard. Just like a lot of other things happen sometimes. If you've lost somebody, and especially if you've lost somebody recently, I want you to try to be ready because you're going to come across this kind of thing once in a while. The other day, I was driving to Lubbock, which is the closest big town to us, where I get a lot of my supplies. We do a lot of things in Lubbock. And the place where the accident happened is between here and there. And so I pass it every time I go to Lubbock. Most of the time, I blow them a kiss and say, I love you. For those that don't know sign language, this is the symbol for I love you. It's the I-L-Y. It all combined into one sign. And that's something that my girls were good with sign language because my wife taught them. She's fluent in sign language. And she had always taught them that. So whenever they leave, even still when they leave, I say I love you as they drive away. So that that's the last thing they see. And when I drive by that spot where the accident happened, I do that as well. I say I love you as I go by. Most of the time, it's just what happens. Once in a while, though, depending on my mood, it hits me pretty hard. Now, that's not as unexpected, but still sometimes it catches me off guard. The second part of this video that I'm wanting to talk about is not only to be ready for those moments, but to know that people you love, if you know somebody that something like this has happened to, even if it's the kind of thing, losing our parents, we know that we expect that we're going to lose our parents at some point in our life, that they will outlive us. And we kind of expect that. But even still, it's awful when it happens. It's terrible when it happens. And if you know people who, especially in the last year or two, even longer than that, they're still suffering, they're still grieving over that loss. One of the last times I went by there, at this point, it wasn't one of the last times, at this point, it was a couple of months ago. I drove by and it hit me real hard. And I got completely sad. I almost couldn't even see the road because of the tears. And as so often happens, I have been so blessed in this whole thing. As so often happens, somebody was thinking about me and they called. In this case, it was a guy that I had graduated high school with. I see him all the time. He was really good friends. He was really good friends with the girls. He loved him. He'd come get them, take them for ice cream, and they referred to him as their uncle. They referred to him as Uncle Chocolate. Anybody that knows us, knows our family very well, will know exactly who I'm talking about. And he was as brokenhearted as anybody when that happened. But he called me. He said, "Man, I was just thinking about you. I thought about you every now and then. You just hadn't been able to call. But right now, something just told me to give you a call." And of course, the timing was perfect. And I've got several other friends, YouTube friends, people that I've known for a long time that do the same thing, who have called in those moments when I was hurting really bad, and that phone call was so well timed, and they had no idea that that's what was going on, but something told them to call, and they called, and I was glad. If you experience that, if you get that urge to call somebody, I want you to do it, because I don't know what your beliefs on things are. People who are religious, and I know a lot of people don't like that word, but the Bible talks about that word and being an okay thing. People who believe in God and the Holy Spirit believe that sometimes the Holy Spirit moves you to do things. People who don't believe in that kind of thing believe sometimes maybe it's karma, or maybe it's just that instinct, just that sense that we all kind of have sometimes that we should do something. We talk about preparedness a lot on this channel, and we get that sense that maybe we should prepare in certain ways. Well, we also get that sense when we think about other people. Sometimes, oddly enough, I did this just a couple of days ago. I called a friend of mine, some people that we dearly loved when we lived in Colorado, and he was just on my heart, on my mind, in my senses to give him a call. Hadn't talked to him in a while. Wanted to lots of times, but I called, left him a message, and he called back even just yesterday and said how good it was to get that. It came at a time when he was needing that phone call and needing that support, needing that love that I was showing him. Don't take that thing for granted. When something like that happens, when you get that urge, when you think, man, I ought to give so-and-so a call, give them a call. Even if you don't have very much time, you call them, tell them, man, I've only got a couple of minutes, but I was thinking about you. I just wanted you to know I love you. You're on my mind. Hope you're doing okay, even though you probably know they're not doing okay. That little bit of support right there makes a huge difference. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that push from whatever it is, whatever you believe it might be. It's a real thing. It's an important thing. And so that's pretty much the context. That's pretty much this message. Just to encourage you to be in touch with the people you know, because you never know if they might have opened up a bag of dusty old envelopes and found pictures of their daughters, pictures of their friends, their family, whoever it is, that might have hit them pretty hard. Sometimes that's just the way it works. I don't know. Maybe that energy that we put out when in an emotional situation like that. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share that with you. Like I say, I'm not dressed to do a video. This isn't one of those scenic locations that I would rather pick. Just here in my dusty old shop, listening to the West Texas wind blow, watching the dirt move around. If you're suffering with a loss like that, please know there are a lot of people that care about you. You're not alone out there. A good friend of mine out in California told me here a while back, points to Oscar for this. He said, Rob, he said, I don't know if it helps. He said, but sometimes it's good to remember that no matter how bad you have it, how bad things are for you, there are people out there that would trade places with you in a heartbeat. Now that doesn't necessarily, he's right. I mean, he's absolutely right about that. And that doesn't necessarily make my hurt any less, but it helps me remember that we are not alone. There are other people out there that are hurting. And if we get a chance to help them with something as simple as a phone call or a text message that just says sending you some love, I just want to encourage all of you to take the opportunity to do that. That's all for now. Thanks for being here. I hope that maybe this will help somebody in some small way. I hope that this will maybe encourage you, if you're hurting, to remember that some of us hurt together, for whatever that's worth. Thank you all.